So we're only one day away from the launch of the Blood Knight, and I decided that we would go through and look at all of the skills and all of the essences available to the Blood Knight. Now there is a lot to go through inside of this video, but with the Blood Knight just coming in just one more day, it's important that we know exactly what we're going to be expecting from the class and kind of prepare ourselves for our builds before we can even really dive into that. So let's start looking at the skills of the Blood Knight. I want to remind you guys that on the 13th and on the 14th, I'm talking about on Thursday and on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern time to 10 p.m. Eastern time, I will be live streaming right here on the channel my transition to the Blood Knight and everything that I do within those 8 hours that I'm live across those 2 days. I hope that you guys join me while I'm live. It's always a good time with the community, and now we get to see something brand new. With that being said, let's dive into the primary skills. This is all on the Blizzard blog, which I'll be linking down below. And it's nice how they did it. They have a nice little image and a description at the same time. Let's take a look. Ravage, unleash a barrage of polearm thrusts and sweeps, dealing damage to an enemy and 25% as much to all other enemies. All right, that's one of our primary skills. Next, we are going to have Annihilation, the ultimate of Ravage. Enhance Ravage for 12 seconds, gaining an additional polearm in your offhand that increases your range and causes the final attack to knock back enemies. While empowered, Annihilation deals increased damage. You also gain a shield that absorbs damage equal to 20% of your maximum life for 3 seconds. So that's essentially going to be the ultimate that you gain from this. Now it's funny because when you're looking at the image right here, there's no additional second set of primary and secondary gear. If you notice, I wonder if this was all imaged out before that update came through. We'll see if they're in later images here. Then we have Shadow's Edge, unlocked at level 34. Wield a blade of pure shadow energy that can be used to slash at nearby enemies, dealing damage. If there are no nearby enemies, the blade will be thrown a short distance, dealing damage. All right, this is what we spoke of in one of our previous videos, how this was kind of a hybrid class. You had yourself the close range striking and slashing, and if not close enough, it would actually throw the blade as a ranged class would. That's going to unlock at 34, called Shadow's Edge. Moving on to the next one, we have Shadow's Embrace, which is the ultimate of Shadow's Edge. So these are our two essential skills inside of the game, the two primary attacks, right? Enhance Shadow's Edge for 12 seconds, throwing a volley of 5 shadow blades that penetrate enemies, dealing damage for each blade that strikes an enemy. You also gain a shield that absorbs damage equal to 20% of your maximum life. So with both of these, you'll be shielded, dropping more damage. Sounds basically how most skills work inside of the game. How the ultimates go. I like it. It looks cool too from the images that were being shared with us right here. Now we have additional skills, right? There's a lot more going on here. Let's look at the first one. Spear Fury. This is unlocked at level 1. So this is one of the first skills you'll get. Now keep in mind here, if you're just class changing, you're going to have all of these unlocked from the start. If you're starting a brand new character, then you're going to need to unlock these one by one as you progress through your character build. Channel a fury of polearm attacks, dealing damage to enemies in front of you. Upon activation, if no enemies are nearby, you'll dash forward a short distance before the onslaught begins. Using Spear Fury slowly consumes its energy, which recovers while Spear Fury is not in use. All right, doesn't sound like anything crazy, but you know, it's one of the first ones that we have. Next, we have Wave of Blood, again available at level 1. Expel a wave of blood that knocks back enemies, dealing damage, maximum 2 charges. It sounds like a tidal wave of blood. And something I have to say, this probably won't all be the same over in China, since blood is like an anti-thing over there. Wondering how they're going to do that with the Shadow Knight. Maybe everything that's blood related is going to actually be, you know, shadow related or wind related in some way. We'll have to see how they do things over there. But for me and for us, blood it is. Moving on, we have next up is Tendrils of Blood, level 3. Shoot blood tendrils into nearby enemies, dealing damage. activate again to pull all afflicted enemies to you, dealing additional damage. So it's going to essentially, it's kind of like a get over here mechanic. You're going to go spike them with your tendrils and then be able to pull them in. Interesting. Barbarian-esque, one might even say. Next up, we have Siphon of Blood, level 8. This is one of the cooler ones here. It's a lifesteal mechanic that I actually really like. Continuously siphon blood from the prey around you, dealing damage to all nearby enemies while also healing yourself for 15% of the damage done. Using Siphon Blood slowly consumes its energy, which recovers while Siphon's blood is not in use. I like the ability to do this. It's something different, it's something cool, and something that we don't have with any of the other classes. Very vampire-esque. I love it. It's just something that's completely brand new. Lifesteal is just awesome. And there's a fly flying around all my lights right now. It's nighttime, so everything is black, but my lights and my monitors. So yeah, hi fly. All right. Next we have Sanguinate. Liquefy into a bloody form for 2.5 seconds, increasing your movement speed by 50%. Activate again to coagulate for being and rush forward, dealing damage to enemies that you pass through. So you essentially are becoming a liquid blood, shadowing yourself or blooding yourself around, and then coming back together, dealing damage, passing through things. That's going to be pretty cool. It's like a nice movement or escape mechanic that the Blood Knight's going to have. I like that as well. Next we have Umbral Lance, which unlocks at level 20. Hurl a lance of pure darkness that penetrates through enemies, dealing damage. Charging longer increases range and damage. I personally don't like charge skills. It's just how I am and how I play. Doesn't mean you don't. Now remember, all of these skills can be modified with essences from gear, which I will be showing you once we get through all of the skills. I will show you all of the essences. There's like 130 of them or something like that. Next, we are going into the Swarm of Bats. This is a cool one as well. Call a cloud of bats to enemies for 8 seconds, continuously dealing damage. The cloud of bats will pursue enemies and can be redirected by activating the skill again. I love this. Bats are going to come. It's like a necromancer-esque thing, but not at the same time. But you're going to have bats come and drop damage around things that are around you. I think that's going to be a cool one. We have Whirling Strike. Whirl your polearm around you multiple times, dealing damage to nearby enemies, maximum of 2 charges. Reminds me of Cleave, when Cleave goes around in a circle, but this says it can happen multiple times. It's like a whirlwind, but not everlasting. Looks cool though. It seems like the Blood Knight does have a couple of skills so far that are similar to the Barbarian. We have Mephitic Cloud. Release a toxic cloud around you for 6 seconds that confuses enemies, causing monsters to attack each other and restricts targeting for players. This is another cool one as well. It's not going to be a direct damage dealer, but if you could drop this cloud onto a mob of enemies and they start attacking one another, it really is doing damage, although it's not you doing the damage. I think this is another cool mechanic inside of the game. Wondering how it would work in PvP. Maybe it wouldn't, but it would definitely be fun to use in PvE. Something I'll definitely be trying. Skewer. Skewer an enemy with your polearm and then slam the enemy into the ground, dealing damage to all of the nearby enemies and stunning them for 3 seconds. Had Camera of the Ancients. You know what I mean. All right, Skewer seems all right. Nothing crazy there. Shroud of Night. Shroud yourself and nearby allies in darkness for 8 seconds, causing shadowy apparitions of enemies to emerge every 1.5 seconds to unleash a primary attack against your enemies. Shadow of Night, that one seems cool too. Causing shadowy apparitions. Essentially, it's going to be making little shadow replicas of yourself that do damage, like Echoing Shade. Abomination. Consume all of your anger to transform into an unholy abomination for 15 seconds, increasing your damage done and replacing your skills with Blood Rush and Shattering Fists. Generate anger each time you damage an enemy with your primary attack or use a skill, like Wrath of the Berserker. Reading it, It reminds me of Wrath of the Berserker. Again, another barbarian skill. But actually, when I was talking to DM about this skill because he got his hands on it. We spoke to him a few days ago on the channel. He said Abomination seems like the coolest, but it was actually a letdown, that it wasn't as cool to be the Abomination as it was to be the normal Blood Knight. Abomination was one of the ones that I was the most excited about. So when I test that out, because it will be one of the first skills that I use, we'll see. Because it seems really cool. It really seems like Wrath of the Berserker by how it reads. Blood Rush. Shed your mortal flesh and move forward a short distance, dealing damage to enemies in your path. It's like Dash, but you're kind of transforming into a mush of blood and then coming back together. I like it. Shattering Fists. Unleash a series of massive blows, dealing damage to all nearby enemies with every third attack causing knockback. So it's a melee style, close combat style, melee barrage, which then does a knockback. Transfusion, unlocking at level 53. Fortify yourself or an ally with enriched blood, granting a shield for 3 seconds that absorbs damage. I love the name Transfusion here. Additional harmful effects will be removed from the target player and they will become immune to harmless effects for the duration of the shield. Targeting an ally with Transfusion causes you to rush to their aid and cast Transfusion on both of you. Transfusion can be activated again one additional time within 5 seconds of your first cast. So there's a really nice support role as well. I mean, if we have Transfusion, if we have the other one, what was that one called? Let's find it really quickly. We had Transfusion. If we would also take Siphon of Blood, so you could use Transfusion, Siphon of Blood, and maybe some other support style skills, and you could really build a nice support class here with the Blood Knight as well, which is not what most people are thinking, but that could be interesting. All right, so now we have a lot of legendary items for the class. 60 new legendary items. And we have a lot of different slots for them to go in, right? Let's see how it all goes. I'm not going to go through every single one of these specifically because that would become extraordinarily long, but we have our chess pieces right here. All of these for your chess pieces will modify how your skills work. We'll pause here for a moment, look through the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10 different modifications for each slot. Plus you have the 2 extra slots. It's like 80 mods you could do right here. Interesting. Then we have everything here for the helmet. Siphon Blood now slows and blinds nearby enemies to you. When Siphon Blood expires, you expel a wave of blood. I feel like these skills that are just like cool already are going to be pretty insane on how they're built. I can't wait to put some builds together for you guys and to highlight other builds from the community. We will have those for you very, very soon. Probably during my live stream, I'll be playing with a bunch as well. Our main hand weapon, we have another 10 different modifications or essences to that. Remember, these are to be collected. These are things that you could be gambling your gold with on 20 different gambles per day to try and unlock different essences. Also, I hope you watched my tip video on how to get a whole bunch of opportunities to unlock legendary gear for these essences as soon as you class change as well. If you missed that video, it's basically called like Prepare for the Blood Knight Now or something like that. It takes you through it. Then we have our offhand weapons as well. Let me read one of them. Merciless Plight. Shadow's Edge now marks enemies, causing them to erupt for additional damage when reaching 4 marks. Okay. I chose one that doesn't sound so cool, but maybe it is. We have the 10 pieces for our pants right now. Spear Fury now knocks enemies into the air. Abomination also conjures an unholy aura around you for the duration of your transformation, dealing damage every second to nearby. It so reminds me of Wrath of the Berserker, because when you get Wrath of the Berserker and you get the flame ring around you, it's very similar to Abomination having an unholy aura around you. Very similar how that works. I would be very surprised if Abomination wasn't very similar to Wrath of the Berserker for the Barbarian. We have the shoulder piece right here. Bats and men both. Swarm of bats now unleashes a barrage of bats, damage the enemies in their path. Isn't that what it does already? Interesting stuff. And then we have, of course, the legendary gem. In yesterday's video, we were going over the patch notes, and I could not find any information on the Spiteful Blood. But here we got it. Apparently, this gem is extremely powerful and meant for PvP. Taking damage while below 50% life causes Spiteful Blood to surge through you for 4 seconds, increasing your damage done by 30% and making you invulnerable to primary attacks from other players. Invulnerable. Wow. In addition, when Spiteful Blood triggers, you gain an absorbed shield to 160%. This is going to be like a must-use gem inside of PvP. 5-star gem. Gonna be expensive to upgrade, but man, it's gonna be a good one. Not only that, the entire Blood Knight is going to be amazing. I can't wait to play the new class. Tomorrow's the day. I hope that you guys come through the live stream, hang out with me, and keep up to date with any builds that I bring you for the Blood Knight, any tips, tricks that I find along the way, and just enjoyable Diablo Immortal times here in the channel. I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you guys back here in tomorrow's video and in tomorrow night's live stream.